Hello, my friends. Hello to those of you who are here every day, and hello to those of you who may have just stopped by to see what it's all about. My name is Pastor Lou. I am the pastor at the High Mountain Presbyterian Church. I've been here for about 9 years now, but only about 7 months in this kind of environment. Maybe it's not that long. So my office is usually open. I have an open door policy and decided to keep that policy by using online streaming on Facebook and YouTube and a chair for you. Chance for you maybe, even without having to go through the intimidation of talking, making an appointment and talking to a pastor, to have a conversation with a pastor. My email address is revlouis, R-E-V as in Victor, L-O-U-I-E at AOL.com, and you can use that to send questions, things you'd like me to talk about, things you might have asked the pastor if you were sitting in the room in a chair like this one, or you're welcome to just listen as I do what pastors and preachers do. We're presumptuous. We have a big presumption. The presumption is that the way the world operates in our life may not be exactly the same, but has a common denominator to the lives of those around us. So when I reflect on my life and the challenges and struggles and joys of my life, I presume that I might from time to time hit on one or two of the things that are happening in your life. In that, I build my ministry on our common humanness. We are, how many times have I heard it during this COVID thing? We're all in this together. Well, the truth is, we may or may not all be in the COVID pandemic together. I think, in fact, our experiences are very different. But we are in this thing of being human together, and what that means and how we understand it. So, Pastor's Chat. It's a chance to reflect a little bit on what's happening and what's not happening, and maybe to just take a breather during your afternoon and spend a while. Just listen. While I'm talking, I know that your mind is going. The mind's ability to process thoughts is phenomenal. So while I'm over here talking at my pace, your mind can go there and back and there and back and there and back, and I'm sure it will. I've not always responded in my life to something that I believe, but it doesn't always have the effect I want it to have or that others have. And this is what I'm talking about. When things are hard and you're going through a tough time, you reach out to a friend, or it might even be a pastor, or to someone that you can talk to, and you describe your situation in really, really difficult terms, to know that whoever's listening to you knows you're in a pickle, you're in a fix, you are in a bad place. Sometimes the conversation when they talk back will be to direct you toward what is positive in the middle of everything else that seems really awful. Excuse me for a minute, I forgot to turn my phone off. I didn't want you to worry about my phone ringing in the background. Where was I? You're having a really rotten day, you're having a bad week, you're having a bad experience, you talk to somebody about it. And my experience is when they get overwhelmed with how well you describe the difficulty of your circumstance, they will ultimately begin to try to turn your mind towards the positive. Isn't that what the That's what the bear sings in the Jungle Book. You got to emphasize the positive, let go of the negative. And I get it, it's true. I mean, it is true. But there's a process to how that takes place in my life. Life is always not just one thing or the other. It's just not. I mean, as bad as things can get sometimes, and in life, they can really get bad. But even in the worst of life's experiences, there are woven into our experiences things that we won't readily see. We won't. And that's understandable because we're living out, a nightmare, a painful experience, a terrible diagnosis of a disease, something that has just taken all the wind out of the sail of life. But even in those most awful experiences of life, the good things, the encouraging things that have made up the rest of our life up until it happened, they didn't disappear. They're still with us. They're still part of our life. It's just that our whole experience turns to what worries us or what has frightened us. So along come the good news bears, the people that want to redirect your attention to something positive. And I don't know about you, but I resist it. I own my suffering. I come by it honestly, and so don't take it away from me. If I want to spend a day moping and worrying and complaining, worked hard for the right to feel sorry for myself. So it's still a confession that even though that's my experience, eventually in the worst of days, I begin to discover that it's never just the worst of days, ever. I remember in the movie, I think it was actually a movie taken out of a period of time of Martin Luther King Jr.'s march. It might also have been John Lewis's leading the community across the bridge to vote, exercise their right to vote. And the first time across the bridge, they were beaten to a pulp. And they were beaten back, and they gathered in the fellowship hall of one of the churches on the original side of the river. And in the movie depiction of it, they were there and they were bandaging their wounds, and they couldn't believe how they'd gotten beaten and how badly beaten they were. And in the middle of the ethos of that despair and suffering, in the movie, there's one young girl who begins to sing. And she sings a song about the grace of God, about the goodness of God in life. And in the telling of it, it's so authentic. It's so true to the way life works. I see it 100 times a month. I go to a situation where, terrible things happen. Really, really awful, terrible things happen to people. And when they're experiencing the unthinkable, the thing that you would say, I have no idea how you would hold on in the middle of that. something breaks through the brokenness. It doesn't deny it, but something breaks through. Someone arrives in the room or at the house or at the accident scene and delivers a powerful experience of love, a memory that just repaints the whole scene and fills human hearts with joy in the middle of suffering. I don't, as I said in the beginning, I don't respond well to, think on the positive things. You know, that song, Count Your Blessings, name them one by one. I get it, but to everything a season. I like being given permission to count the curses so that I know my life is real, but I'm not imagining it. To take stock of what's difficult and what's in front of me. It just seems so real to me. And then, usually, it's not until, I think, the fullest awareness of how discouraged we are, or how disheartened we feel, or how frightened, or how much at a loss we feel, until that takes full bloom. When it takes full bloom is usually right about when it's about to turn in our minds and our hearts. And I'm not talking about a short period of time. Sometimes can be a grief that lasts for years, but there may be experiences of this in the middle of it. I don't really know if it's true. It may just be our experience, but in the spiritual tradition of the Black church, of the African American church, there are what I call the sayings, the things that are repeated over and over again. We all have them. But in that church, they will sing about, they will preach about, they will remind each other that it is always darkest before the dawn. Now, I've stood outside many times in the night. In fact, the last couple of nights, the sky at night has been so fabulous. I get awakened, I have to get up, the dog out or something like that, and I find myself out in the middle of the yard at 2 o'clock in the morning. That's why I yawn, because I didn't sleep. And I look up. Mars right now is just, it's beautiful. It's not white like the stars. They say it's fiery red, but it's the night sky is full of light these days. But as the sun begins to crest, as it begins to make its entry onto what we call the day, the arrival of the sun over there starts to make the night darker. Now that's all in our eyes, in the way our eyes handle light and darkness. So maybe that's why in the folk comments, in the sayings, they talk about it's always darkest before the dawn. It's comforting. It's also good if you're trying to help someone who is going through a difficult time, to be aware of that, to give them the space to live into the moment that they're having. And hold on with them. You believe that there are other things, good things in their life. You believe it for them. And then you could be ready when the darkness of night is pierced by a light. And something of joy and value and of great worth, of appears in the middle of hopelessness and worthlessness. Maybe it's an opportunity, a door that opens for you to say, I love you, I really love you, and I care about you to someone who's hurting. Maybe it's a chance for you to think about that person and to think about something that you've shared in common. I don't know, a song, something a trinket that you would bring that bears witness beyond any thing's value to what matters. That's what funeral gatherings used to be like when we were allowed to still have them. That's really the dance of the funeral gathering. The unthinkable has happened. We come together because it has actually happened. And it is unthinkable. It's terrible. And we present an opportunity for the ray of light to come piercing through, to find us, or to help others find it. It's tricky. It won't work if you're just using platitudes. Say things that people always say. But if you enter into the experience of what's hurting you or hurting others, and you work hard to listen and to empathize, you enter that journey into the dark place with them, then you get to experience, too, the discovery of that which is valuable beyond time. So, all over the world right now, all over the world, there's confusion, there's heartache, there's unemployment. I was talking to a couple of business owners today who, been in business for a long time and just have never been hit like they've been hit. They don't know how to recover. They don't know what to do. They're still trying to figure out what is going to happen to them and what they can do. So, my prayer for you is that when things are working on you and they're making you feel discouraged, that you'll just remember that we all believe. Somewhere in the middle of all that, the darkness is hiding things that you still hold on to with joy and that you love and that are timeless and that you will be able to discover them again, to hold on to them. So that's my prayer for you, for today, for this Tuesday, for this first day of September, the day of schools reopening and going back to school. That's my prayer. May God be with us in the difficult times and always be shining a light on the gems, the jewels, and the things that sustain our lives, and that remind us of your love for us, which is always for us. God bless you, my friends. Thanks for stopping by for this period of time, and I'll see you tomorrow. God bless you.